you think about it, every major shift in the workplace has forced us to rethink what it means to be human at work. But this moment feels different. AI isn't knocking on the door anymore. It has walked right in, sat at the table, and quietly started rewriting how decisions get made. And here's the interesting part: the function that is expected to hold the line on empathy, ethics, and culture is the same function now being asked to integrate algorithms, predictions, and automation. HR has never been pulled into two directions like this before. So welcome to a special episode by ETHRWorld in collaboration with Konverz AI, where instead of asking the usual, will AI take over question, we are going to focus on something that is more relevant. How do humans and AI actually work together in a way that elevates people and not sidelines them? We have brought in leaders who are living this shift every single day. Yuvaraj, Srivastava, Group CHRO, MakeMyTrip; Deepali, Bhardwaj, Regional Human Resource Director, Southwest Asia, IHG Hotels and Resorts; Sanjay Bose, EVP and Head HR, ITC Hotels; Lokesh Nigam, CEO, Konverz AI. I'm Himanshi Tiwari. So let's jump straight in, because the conversation isn't about the future, it is about decisions HR needs to make right now. All right, thank you for joining us for this conversation today. Now, as we know, people, that AI is being compared to industrial revolution, right? The real question perhaps is that, is AI coming for HR, or how are we establishing that relationship with AI before the AI sort of establishes a new relationship with us? And starting with that question, perhaps I'll start with you, sir. How do you think, how is this disruption in HR happening? How do you see that?
So interesting. I think, Manshib, I don't call it as a disruption. Disruption for me is something which completely disrupts the way you work. Right. And in case a process or anything which comes new gets introduced in any of the industry or in the function, and if it has an ability to really enhance work, quality, output, I think it's not disruption, but it's somewhere enabling the whole process of your productivity and your work. So I think that I look at it, AI, as something which would really take the level of delivery for all the functions very differently to the next level. And obviously, over a period of time, if you look at the revolutions happen, things change over a period of time. We started from the laptops, we went to the internet, we went to the mobile technology, we are mostly handling apps. Things need to continue to change. And now when we are talking about AI, AI is one of the biggest enabler what I have seen in the last 20 years of my career, and also perhaps will continue to really define the way HR works in the industry. Because why I say this is, earlier everyone used to be very, very wary of talking about engineering, coding and languages around it, right? Now what people say that AI can be leveraged best by people who at least can write a good prompt. And if that be so, the biggest factor is that it removes that whole fear of getting into something which you are not aware of. So I think that for me, AI is the biggest enabler in last 3 to 4 decades. And this is going to redefine the way we deliver and work. So I think I am very, very excited about it.
No, absolutely. But it also adds to the fear of, will I lose my job or not because of AI, right? However, I'll move to you, Deepali. Is HR really with this shift, or is HR only reacting to the shift? Like, when I talk about disruption, I mean HR as a custodian of people, right? So how is it happening? How do you see that evolution?
I think foremost, thank you for having me here, and I would kind of agree with what my friend just said, that disruption is not the right word, and I would really want to comment on that and say that it's a transformation, and HR is living that transformation. Like any other business, we are also living the same transformation. It is transforming the way we are working. It is transforming the way we are doing business. It is transforming the way we are even catering to our clients, especially in our business, which is guests. So technology is everywhere. It is from primary school to the workplaces and everything else in between. Technology is transforming. Whether it is going to change the world for HR, yes, it is changing the world, and not only for HR but for all functions. I think it's an enabler, rightly said, where we are not only just managing things, but we are managing things efficiently. I think building efficiency, high productivity, more time on hand, reskilling, building our own capabilities as a HR function and as HR enabling the other business functions, we are moving a big way in that space. So it's exciting. It's something to look forward to. It's something to kind of go with the flow, change with the dynamic times, and anybody who changes will definitely change. And the data shows that in Microsoft 2025 trends, 93% of the Indian companies are either absorbing AI or looking at integrating AI. So that is the way to be, and we are all kind of riding the tide along with it.
No, thank you for answering that question. You too, of course, one thing that we have established after these 2 points, that it's not a disruption, it's a transformation that's happening. But whatever it is, the shift is big. The shift is huge that we are seeing, right? And Sanjay, if you can come into this conversation, where are you seeing the major dents in HR functions? What are those functions where are you seeing the major transformation that we are talking about?
So, if I look at just the verticals of HR, obviously the first one to be impacted is hiring. Yeah. It's changing the way you can look at profiles. The sifting is happening at a speed and with an accuracy, which was earlier unimaginable. So, in that sense, matching of profiles with the job descriptions, looking at experiences, etc. The churn of what the hiring process used to take a lot of HR time is now come down. So that's the first part. The second impact, which is again the easiest impact, is probably learning and development. If you look at training, how to prepare developmental areas, prepare customized growth paths for an individual, which was earlier probably impossible for HR to do. AI is able to do that very, very quickly. These are early shoots and therefore the easier shoots. I think as we get into deeper AI adoption, I think that's where the impact will become more visible on instruments which drive culture, which process the DNA of the organization and are able to drive things which are of a larger impact. So I'm sure those times are to come, but right now.
But are there any areas where AI promised but hasn't delivered yet?
It always depends on how you look at the promise, right? See, that's two sides of the coin. It's HR, we are responsible for people, and people never give pre-formatted output, right? It's about emotions, it's about perception, it's about judgment. The biggest roadblock, as I see, for HR right now, and therefore the challenge, is to take away the fear of AI. Yeah. And that starts with us HR people. Okay. As long as we start to adopt AI for the value that it brings, as an enabler, as an augmenter of HR function, as long as we start getting more data adept and more comfortable with looking at data, I think the first challenge is done. Then we can take it across to the workforce. And like Deepali was saying, there's this whole resistance about AI will eat our jobs, etc. We need to get out of that fear and bring in the positives of adoption. It's about reskilling. It's not about losing jobs. It's about getting your jobs to be done better, quicker. So those are the aspects I would imagine.
All right. Yeah. Do you want to add something?
So, I think if you look at the functions in HR, Manshib, if you draw a pyramid and see that where AI is going to impact in the beginning and what can be the superordinate goal of that. So the overall hierarchy, as per my understanding, is that the first easiest part what people crack is doing the content. Yeah. Creating content, writing content and all that stuff. It graduates to the next level wherein the process cleanup starts happening with the help of an AI. Third is employee service, wherein you start getting to chatbots, answering queries to people with the help of LLM models and all that stuff. And finally, you reach to a stage which is evolved stage of decision making with the help of a data analytics, right? The biggest fear for the superordinate goal of really having AI being used for the decision making is that your data needs to be very, very large, and you should have sufficient data to help LLM take the decisions for you and do the right analytics. So I think the organizations right now are very excited doing the base level activities with the help of an AI. But it's important for the organizations to understand that to go to the next level, to the next level, to the top level, there'll be a requirement of people getting trained and people getting a complete mindset shift for really being very, very comfortable with this and not get into also in a complacency mode that you have an assistant which can really do everything for you. And at the back end, I can't really learn my personal skills and I can't really evolve myself. So I think it's important to really look at the hierarchy, look at the organizations at what stage they are, and ensure that you go to the level of decision making with the help of an AI, but finally ensure that you are not getting complacent in the whole process.
The best example perhaps is the company that has actually set the standards for us, ChatGPT. Is also hiring content strategist, right? So that's the truth of the world, that AI and human has to move hand in hand, right? Well, I would like to move to you, Lokesh. Before we talk about the trust and ethics part, which is perhaps as much important when we talk about AI, let's also talk about how are frontline managers reacting to this change? Because we are talking about the mindset shift, but what is happening on the ground? How are you seeing things shaping up?
If we really look at AI as a paradigm, so I think before I get there, there are a few things that come to my mind. One is that we are living in a time of paradigm shift. So we are transitioning into an old world way of working to a new world way of working. That is one. Second thing is one of the fears and that we have been discussing, and probably the industry represented here is the best. 100% of consumers will always remain people. 100% of shareholders will always remain people. And 100% of people delivering value will always remain people. So therefore, people are not going. First thing that we as managers and we as business people must realize that the issue of losing jobs is out of the table, but issue of jobs changing is on the table. So jobs are going to change drastically, and that's where I bring the aspect of frontline manager. If you see, for example, Yuvaraj's industry has all been shaped by technology in last 20 years, 25 years, and one of the best examples. So how people in the middle management are changing the way work is done is most significant and most important. Now, what happens is, I'm taking examples from my industry, which is consulting, which requires a lot of thought, judgment, creating stuff, creating solutions. A lot of middle management people still are not comfortable with using AI. And when I talk about Gen Z, they bring their own AI. So there's, BYOAI.
Yeah.
So, company provides Copilot, which is not so great, and people have their own subscriptions, they bring it to work. So that bridge is slowly, the judgment of the manager and the ability of the people, which classically has been a little bit of a top-down, is bridging. Because they are augmented or amplified, but managers are not using as much or not thinking fast and forward enough. So this is one big gap they have to bridge. One, adopt yourself. Second, bring out use cases of how does work. So, when we talk about work, all three are integrated: work, workforce, and workplace. So work itself, because of AI, work itself will change. So how work changes is because now it is augmented. Now, so for example, in the hiring process, you need to schedule, you need to interview initially, you need to, make the judgment, you need to finally, screen down the people you want to meet. Don't need to do that work now. AI will do that. So work changes. Now, when the work changes, manager has to rewrite the process. Because the individual employee or the recruiter will not. So that is the manager work. And so their work therefore is transforming, whether it's hiring or learning. We are running use cases of learning which is completely AI driven. So there is no instructor. It's all AI led learning, and we are doing those experiments with a company called Petronas as we go. So no instructor, nobody, and you have a whole system of learning on things that you want to learn. So work changes, workplace changes, because collaboration changes. Why? Why it is so is because even in the technology era, when we talk about Microsoft Teams or stuff like that, which are all the collaboration tools, they are themselves transforming. So if you look at Outlook or Teams, they now can give you summaries easily, help you collaborate more. So collaboration is changing. Are we leveraging those tools of collaboration which are available to us? So workplace is transforming not just physically, but also digitally. So first transition is from physical to digital. Now it's digital to amplified or augmented with AI. And workforce, of course. So bringing your own AI. So workforce is transforming now. Middle manager role has always been classically to do two things. One is to stitch things together, and second is to develop people. Right? So stitching is completely out of the scope now. If you really see that, stitching not needed, because even without AI, digital tools are quite advanced to do that stitching bit of how the work is happening and how multiple people are contributing. The second work, which is developing and coaching, is becoming more and more important. And that's where these managers have to become themselves AI competent. Otherwise, actually middle management is going to, and we have done enough research that in the next 10 years, we would have at least 2 levels of work or 2 levels of managers syncing. So, if you have a 7 or 8 level organization now, you will actually need 5.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the manager
absolutely.
thing, yeah.
That's the impact that AI has created. And with impact, there's also a lot of complexity that comes with AI. And while we talk about complexity and AI, the conversation quickly shifts to bias, trust, ethics, right? So I'll move to you, Deepali. When we talk about biases, when we talk about transparency, these are some big concerns for HRs at this point in time, right? So what are those HR dilemmas? In what functions? What are those dilemmas that you feel are currently, you are occupied with personally? Because we learn about bias in theory, but you are the HR people, you know what goes on in the boardroom, right?
So I think it's very simple. We've, I think, made it too complicated to my mind. See, AI, what is AI providing us? AI is providing us information and insights, yeah. And as HR and as leaders, we need to humanize that, yeah. Biases are there, always there, even with human beings, biases have been there. And AI is also made by humans, let's not forget that. Also, AI is changing at a certain pace currently, and we are still at a nascent space of that, which means there's a lot of historical data. As we all know, output is dependent on the input. Yeah, and if the input is historical with biases, the output will definitely be biased. That's where the HR comes in. That's where you need to put filters. AI is providing you information does not mean you have to use it as is. That is why humanizing that information and building your decision making is critical. What is also important is that, at the same time, I would say what AI is providing you is a lot of information which is beyond the surface, which means as HR people or as leaders for any company or for any function, you can have more meaningful conversations with your people. You're not operating at a surface. Your data is providing you much more insights. While on the surface, the perception could be, for example, for a certain leader could be different, while data could say that this person has lost 70% of its employees in the last 6 months, or the team that the person has kind of reported into. Now that's data. How do you build that data? Humanize that data, build a perspective, coach and mentor the person, and take that person forward into a far more exceptional leader, that is what changes. What skills, do we need to provide? Honestly, I don't think AI is the problem. Yeah, the change is not in AI. The change needed is in human beings, is in a people. Yeah, and the moment as people we pick up that AI and use it to our benefit, I think biases, the credibility of using AI, which is where the issue is, because right now even people think that data will be picked up from AI and will be used as is. The moment you use it as is, the credibility is gone. So removing that bias, building credibility, using it as something which is more authentic, something which is explainable to the people, and Trust me, we are using our workforces. I'm sure my co-panelists will agree. We'll have 70%, new generation working for us. They are equally equipped in that space. If anything, they're better in that space. So how do we make it authentic, make it more explainable to them, and place it in a manner where it is accepted? I think that is where the shift lies. Just using it as you have to ask questions to AI. Don't forget that.
No, absolutely. And even when you talk about data is as biased as the person analyzing it, right? So it's gonna change from perspective. It has different perspective. Everyone has different perspectives. Now moving on from that to the internal guardrails, Yuvaraj. How do we put those internal guardrails without actually slowing down the AI innovation that is happening in the company?
So I think the first guardrail, or if you talk about what can create a bit of fear of the process in the organization, is that are people losing job, right? I think to that, one has to clearly, transparently communicate to people the tools in the system and the organizations come to really improve efficiency and the productivity. In our type of an economy in India, where things are growing, talent is getting shrunk, you have a talent market which is, everybody's looking for the similar talent in their industry. So whether demand is high, quality of talent is low or less, it's important to be very sure that jobs will not go. You'll lose a job, you'll get another job, and you'll lose it only in case you have not scaled up to yourself, right? So I think the first thing is that clearly, transparently, organizations have to really create a guardrails in terms of communication. Second guardrail, what I have felt is that how are you using data internally, right? In the garb of really being very deep in terms of your data understanding, many times you may end up capturing data and using data which may not really be the right way of looking at individuals' behaviors, right? So it's important for the organization to really tell people within HR that, while you are looking at individual data, ensure that you are using data in the right manner and you are not being intrusive. It's more for the information rather than getting intrusive. And connected to that point is that if you look at the way data is presented, right? The data can be presented in a manner which makes sense. It may not make sense. Data always remains biased. Data gives you depth. But the fact is that when, as a HR professional, you are looking at the data, it provides you, overall understanding, which is far more closer to the human. Guardrails, I would also say that ensure that which platform you are using your data. Right, as somebody was saying that somebody is using ChatGPT, somebody is using Copilot. I think all these platforms can really suck your data, and they'll ask you data for really giving a better input. Are you using the right platform to use your internal data? Is something a guardrail what you should define. Do you have an enterprise solutions to really use your internal data, or you are using it at every place for that matter? That's important. Other thing is that when you are working with the data, at least be transparent in terms of telling people that how this data is going to be used. I think that some of these guardrails in terms of data privacy, in terms of right platforms to be used, and also ensuring that internal security systems are far strengthened as compared to what it had been in the past, is the ways to really look at the guardrails internally.
Thank you for sharing. Those were very interesting points, Yuvaraj. And Lokesh, if you can come in from the product side, when we talk about biases, trust and ethics, what part is technically solvable and which part is still aspirational?
See, I think one thing because I've been working in this for last 3 years, trying to create completely objective information about the individual. So, from a trust and ethics perspective, the number one thing that you have to do is to make your data explainable. So it's AI led but humanly explainable. So when I say that, let's say I'm measuring somebody's personality and saying that, this is what is true about you, it should be explainable. And explainability comes again through AI, which is statistics, which is making sure that you are relying on the right models, you are relying on the right kind of research to back your information that you are processing. So that is very, very important. So first thing is explainability. And even internally, from an internal management perspective, it's always like that, whether we worked 50 years ago in HR or now, whether it was unions or explainability, right? So whatever is the practice that I'm following is explainable and it makes sense and it's fair to all. So this is one of the most important things. Second thing is I think one of the most important things which stitches multiple geographies and industries together is data privacy.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important in today's day and time, because and this is something even from an internal organization guardrail perspective very important, that how are we setting up the governance of privacy. Right now, does AI have a seat on the board? No, right? Most organizations do not. So soon we will see, in a few years, we will have AI governance as its board chair. Or somebody who is representing that particular aspect, just like we have somebody representing remuneration, somebody representing audit. Similarly, we will have somebody representing AI on the table from a governance perspective, that what part of it should still, what kind of workplaces we create which still use AI. Still will be many things which humans should only do. And I think even in the longer term, which is 5 to 10 years, judgment will always remain human.
Yeah.
So governance from the point of view that judgment is not taken away by technology or AI. So that's the other very important thing in the usage of AI. And ethics, I think from a data processing perspective and from a ethical perspective, I think in India we have a little bit of a disadvantage right now, because we don't have our own ecosystems, and therefore the cost of operations becomes too high. So if even for example, you want to give Copilot to everyone, it's extremely costly. You cannot do that right now, it's prohibitive. So, from that perspective, how do I make models available to people for productivity and at the same time be ethical is a little bit of a jumbled up thing that we need to solve. And from a product perspective, so products can be very easily built today. It's the
easiest thing to do.
Easiest thing to do. Easiest thing to do. You can create products out of nowhere in a few weeks. So there again, like what Deepali was saying, do I just rely on information, or do I process it enough to make sure that it is research based? Is the most important thing, and therefore be able to explain. And
all right.
So
all right.
these are some
So
of the things.
once we solve for the trust angle, the conversation automatically shifts to the opportunity, where the opportunity lies in, and that makes me bring the point of personalization, right? When we talk about personalization, and Sir Sanjay, if you can come into the picture, how do you see AI insights actually improving personalization, actually improving employee experience, personalized employee experiences?
I think one of the greatest strengths of AI at work is personalization. So if I look at traditionally, HR had limited resources and therefore limited tools to deploy something which was individualized. If I look at human beings, this whole principle of policies, processes which cut across the board are not really effective. So we talk about productivity and efficiency growing manifold. The root of it is to customize something to the individual requirements, mindsets, styles of learning, ways of working, etc. And I think that is what AI is bringing to the table. Now, if you look at the way the system works, it's self-learning. It looks at the user's profile, usage, etc., and keeps adapting itself to the output in line with the user's requirements, taste, etc., etc. So, among all the things that AI brings to the table, I think the biggest value add is personalization. Now, the flip side of the coin is when we train the AI model, coming back to the guardrails piece, it should not adopt the user's personality only. It should work on the larger data which it's been trained on. And the training should be such that it is able to decipher what is productive for the organization and not. So, on one side is adapting to the user's need, requirements, tastes, etc., and giving back information. The other side is providing guardrails so that it does not become too individual-centric and has the larger organization's objectives, etc. in mind. So that's one piece. The second piece is again about how is the user trained, coming to Lokesh's point. HR's biggest responsibility today is to do AI training of its workforce. unless the workforce knows what it can do and what it can get out of the system and what it should not do, I think our job does not even begin. It starts there.
All right. So when we talk about personalization, and Lokesh, quickly your perspective on this, while we are personalizing experiences for our employee, the AI has to feed in employee data, right, to create that personalization. So where do we create a balance that personalization is not acting like a surveillance for employees? Quickly your perspective.
So I
on
think,
this.
so there are things already there in the market. There's something that we call talent intelligence. So talent intelligence is the layer that works on the employee data to elevate data related to performance, data related to aspirations or demographics, etc., and bring in the layer of talents, aspirations, and competencies and skills, and use that for predicting workforce makeup, and use that for succession, careers, etc., etc. So you already have that. Now, naturally, when you are building the talent intelligence layer, that's a data lake. It's above your HRMS system and your learning system. You're building that layer. So, naturally, when that layer is being built, it has to be reliable in the sense that it doesn't use any privacy data to be thrown to somebody else. So for example, you have rights-based access. Only employee can see their information, or the manager or the HR, stuff like that will still exist. But in the larger scheme of things, that can largely be controlled. Data privacy is not so much of a concern when it comes to utilizing and creating intelligence on talent.
And in fact, if I can add to what Lokesh is saying, that in the organizational scheme of things, for an individual, there is always two layers of data, right? For any individual, there is a personal data which you want to really keep it to yourself. You don't want to share it with anyone, right? Suppose it's my, Instagram or social media handle or whatever it is, right? In certain countries, it may not just still be, private to you. And there is another data which is generated within the organization for an individual, right? Your performance data, your conduct data, your overall, attitude data, your learning agility. I think there are different data which gets created within the organization for the individuals. And I think to my best understanding, this data is also communicated to the individuals, right? Now the question is that, are you putting all this data in a jar and taking the right decision with the funnel, or you are really trying to bring in personal biases there? So clearly, if the data is divided into two parts, one which is generated in the organization and shared with an individual and by the individual, I think using that data to take the right decision in the interest of the organization and to a great extent also in the interest of the individual should not be a problem. But the moment personal biases starts coming in, right, that, I think that suppose somebody has to move to certain location as a transfer, and there's a data which doesn't want to be shared by an individual saying that, because of personal medical emergency or the family contingency, I may not be able to move. So that's a personal data. And your decision should not be really dependent on that data which is being kept behind by the individual. So I think it's important to understand that data is of two types. And there's a data which is generated within the organization, and the organization should definitely be in position to use those data for the right decision making.
Can I just add one line to that?
Please.
It's the important piece is consent. The fundamental issue here is of consent. For example, I'm an employee and I'm going through mental health challenges, and I take the counseling service from the organization. AI would take that information, dovetail it with my performance data, and give an input back to the organization, right? So the real issue is not about how that data is being used. It is whether the data is being used with consent. As an employee, I may choose to keep my health data aside from the organization. Those kind of guardrails will become important as we go along.
And I think that always data is used for two ways. One, to negate your hypothesis, and other one is to validate your hypothesis. As long as it is done with an intent of validating your positive hypothesis, it is to a great extent good. But in case you are doing elimination with the help of a data to corner some decision, then that's something where one should be very, very careful how to use it.
There's a thin line between inclusiveness and intrusiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's a very good point. And by now, of how much we discussed, we have established a few points on what part of human touch should absolutely be untouched. Right. Moving on to the HR's own evolution now. And Deepali, if you can come in, what is that mindset? Yeah. What are those capabilities that HRs themselves need to develop to lead the human plus AI generation we are currently in?
I think very, very clearly, and I think this whole conversation leads to that, which is co-creation. Yeah, thinking that AI will do the work, it won't. Yeah, or only human beings are going to just use AI and just kind of do it in a in a cookie cut method. It won't work. So co-creation, building that mindset of change within first themselves before they can kind of take it to the organization. That's where and HR plays a very critical role in building that culture of change. And that change has to start from, that mindset has to start from HR itself. Because if that is not the starting point, the end point won't be where you want to reach. So the building that change mindset, using that data, but humanizing it and using it for the organization benefit, looking at something which is for a long haul and not something which is current. Most organizations, for example, from a HR space, are using AI only from a recruitment standpoint, followed by learning where you're personalizing it and stuff like that. Performance still kind of reaching there, and culture is the long haul. So HR's role is to build a cultural mindset towards AI where fear is overtaken by curiosity. Data is used for decision making, but in a manner which is sliced and diced, and building that mindset of not using a cookie cut paste or the way we've worked for so many years. I think building that shift towards change for themselves is paving the way for the business at the end of the day, and the consumer further. That's what HR has to start with. So building that capability, enhancing their own skills in this space, building the efficiency models within HR, communicating that within the organization across the length and breadth of the organization. That's where HR has to make the starting point. And we are still on the tip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And while we all were talking about the next generation that is coming in, so I hope the next generation of HR leaders come with right instincts and right capabilities that we are talking about, right? Now, as we are moving towards the end of this conversation, leaders, quickly, what will be your priorities? See, we have spoken about present, we have spoken about skills. Now, looking ahead, what's going to be your top 2 priorities for the year 2026 when we talk about human plus AI? I'll start with you, Lokesh.
Okay, so for me, since we are working day and night on human-AI collaboration and also doing the research and product part of it, so for us the priorities are very, very clear in terms of one, increasing the depth of our research, in terms of what we are bringing to the industry, in terms of right set of tools to make hyper personalized and right talent decisions. So making right talent decisions, giving enough intelligence, making sure that enough intelligence comes to make faster talent decisions. And second one is, of course, is a huge thing, I think, where we from my perspective so starting a dialogue which is not just a short term dialogue which is talking about how we can use AI or how it is impacting people, but this whole paradigm of human AI collaboration together, and that is a very, very important thing which has to happen as a dialogue in the industry. Leaders like Sanjay, Deepali, Yuvaraj and many, many others, we have to start doing that from an Indian context perspective. So that is a very important thing as well.
All right, perfect. Sanjay, what will be your top 2 priorities?
I'll go back to where I started. I think the first point is to create AI awareness and AI training among the workforce, clear the myths of what AI can do and what it can take away, and reinforce the value add where AI can bring it. That's the first point. The second point, I think, is in most cases we see AI is being adopted on top of existing processes. I think fundamentally we need to look at revising HR processes which go with human and AI hand in hand. And I think that's the second piece which will be on top of my agenda for 26.
All right, what would be yours, Deepali?
Honestly, I've been thinking about this, and I would look at it as not 2 but 3 priorities, which is a 3T approach, as I call it. Technology, imbibe that. Talent, which is reskill and build them for the future. And the third is transformation, so that we are there for the long haul. So it's a 3T strategy: technology, talent, and transformation.
All right, quickly, Yuvraj.
Yes, for me, I think first clearly is building culture of changing mindset to adapt, AI. I think normally people drift towards technology functions and online functions as an area wherein AI should really work. But my understanding is that right from the functions like admin to the finance to the HR to customer care group, every function which is supposed to be enabling, it needs to really figure out what are the use cases for them and how they can leverage it. So I think that mindset needs to be changed, and culture of amplified usage of AI is one thing. Second is also ensure that while we are working around this, we are not stepping into the areas which can really create issues of data privacy, which can create issues of going beyond the defined lines, and also ensure that you are not crossing the limits of AI acceptance or AI processes. So I think bring both these together and create a culture in the organization which is learning agile and also far closer to solving problem, and ensuring that your metric starts getting driven by quality and efficiency rather than optimizing of manpower. That is how I look at it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, leaders, for sharing your perspectives with us. The conversation has given something very important, that AI is not going to replace humans in HR. It's actually raising the bar of what human is in HR currently, right? And as we know, and as we talked about, that the future belongs to the leaders who know how to combine intuition with intelligence and empathy with data, right? Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and to our viewers, stay tuned for many more such interesting conversations only at ETHRWorld.